that you've listened to the show, I'd like to give you a couple of practice tips on some of the tricky passages that may need a little bit more practice. The first passage comes from the first movement, measure 36 through 45. There's a lot of dynamics that happen during this passage, and it's at a very quick pace too, so it's easy to just fly right through them without actually getting the full effect. So I encourage you to practice very slowly with a metronome during this section. The next passage to take a look at is also from the first movement, measures 56 through 58. In measure 56, we have 2 eighth notes, followed by a stream of quarter note triplets. The tricky part here is going to be making sure we don't slow down on the triplets. It's going to be tempting, but we need to make sure we keep that drive and energy up, which then leads us to beat 3 in bar 57. Making sure that the triplets are even. Triplet, 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 instead of triplet, triplet, triple, or some other variation of that. Make sure that the triplets are super even and have that drive leading to beat 3 in bar 58, or 57 rather. A quick note about the second movement. If you take a look at measure 25, you see the glissandi there in both parts, the top and bottom. For the top part, I go out to 7th position for that A flat and gliss up to 3rd position. You could also do it in 3rd and gliss up to 1st and shoot out to 3rd position very quickly, which that's actually what I do for the lower part. For that E flat, it's impossible to play it out in 7th or 8th. So you have to do that in 3rd, gliss up to 1st, and then shoot out to 3rd position very quickly at the end to get that effect. And now we move on to the third movement. The key word for this third movement, in my opinion, is articulation. There are so many different types of articulation markings written in this movement, starting from the very get-go. In bar 17, you have an accent with a dot, the next note, accent slurred to a dot or staccato, and then the next note is an accent slurred to another staccato, followed by a staccato with an accent on top, and the next note, an accent. So many variations in articulation that we need to make sure we are getting across to the listener and that we're matching across the ensemble with the rest of the band, especially the low brass section. So I encourage you to really slow that down and see if you can make each of those sound distinct. There's a lot of tricky slide motion in this low brass 2-part. You have to get out to 5th position often. In fact, you have to do it a lot from 1st position, as you can see in measure 17, F, F, G flat, and you have to slur out to 5th position often as well. So you have to have a very crisp slide, very fast, yet not chaotic slide. The next tricky passage from this third movement would have to be the syncopation that we get, starting in measure 34, all the way through, I believe it is measure 38. So starting at 34, I'll say the rhythm for you. Ta, 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 ta. There's some tricky syncopation that you need to make sure that you're not falling behind on and that you're not jumping in certain holes in the music or rests whenever you shouldn't be. So slow that down as well. Make sure that you are 100% accurate with your rhythm there.